everyone. This is Dr. Shelley Plum. I would like to welcome you all back to From the Hip. I am here today with Eric Romano. He is from Romano Law Group. How are you, Eric?
Doing just fine, thank you. How are you?
Great, great. So what is your specialty in law?
I am a general litigation trial attorney,
Yes.
specializing in personal injury and wrongful death litigation and criminal defense.
You know what, it's funny you're talking, and that is a really important specialty. And one thing that is jumping to mind, and I know we had talked about it before, is the incidence of overdoses in today's society. Do you see that in your practice, cases related to that overdose?
I do. I see it quite a bit, and one of the interesting things about my practice is there's a tremendous overlap between the personal injury work and the criminal defense work, because we see a little bit of it coming from both sides. In the personal injury work, what I see is a lot of clients that suffer severe injuries. They then are prescribed pain medication to help treat the pain, and sometimes that the use of the pain medication goes a little longer than expected, sometimes a little longer than necessary. They become tolerant, which sometimes leads to addiction.
That's true,
and
yes.
The occasional overdose.
So do you taking that just a step further, do you see that translating into, for example, accidents that are out there, auto accidents or accidents in general?
I do. I can give you one example from a recent case, a young man in his 20s that had suffered a severe work-related injury, went to the hospital, had a couple of surgeries. As a result of that, to help manage the pain, he was prescribed some opioid pain medication. That ultimately grew into an addiction.
Okay.
To the point where he was taking more and more, getting prescriptions that he wasn't supposed to have. Right. Ultimately took too many one day, got behind the wheel, went out and caused a fatal car accident. Oh,
that's just devastating, and that's something that I'm sure can be prevented, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yes. From a physician standpoint, when we have patients that are in pain, it is hard not to prescribe the pain medication. Do you see, in your personal opinion, are people overdoing the prescriptions? Or, what do you see? What is the trend?
Well, I think there's a couple of things going on. First of all, there seems to have been greater social acceptance in recent years of taking drugs or medications to treat just about anything.
Right.
You turn on the TV now, you watch any sort of program, it seems like half the commercials you see are for drugs.
You know what, it rings true, because I'll be honest with you, I watch an hour of TV, it's in the end of the day, and I'll tell you what, every single commercial is a pharmaceutical company.
Right.
Yes. So you think that's the case? People are defaulting more to medications than they are to, say, the root of the problem?
Well, I think that's part of it.
Yes.
I think people in general are kind of have this message now that's been kind of the result of more aggressive marketing by the pharmaceutical companies. But there's greater awareness and kind of this, I think, more of a cultural acceptance that there's a drug to fix anything now.
Right.
And whether you have pain, whether it's depression, whether it's memory loss, whether it's blood pressure, whatever it is,
yes,
the default reaction seems to be there's a pill for that.
Right, right. And that rings true, because there was actually an alarming statistics that you shared with me before we got on set here, right?
Right.
And can you share that with our viewers?
Sure. Well, the United States accounts for about 5% of the world's population, but we account for more than 80% of the world's opioid use. Opioids, of course, being essentially the class of drugs that make up most pain medications.
That is true. That is true. Now, that is, and I, doing my own research, I have found similar statistics really equating overdoses, deaths from overdoses, to almost the incidence of car accidents. Do you see that in your practice?
I do, and I'm familiar with some of those same articles and the data that we keep up with.
Right.
And I know that just since the year 2000, over 44,000 people have died from opioid-related overdoses. Now, these are accidental overdoses
Right.
from people addicted to or abusing pain medications.
Right.
And most of those overdoses or the abusive use of them
Yes.
usually starts with somebody who's got an injury or an illness.
Right.
They start off with a legitimate, valid prescription from a doctor.
Right.
But because their tolerance then builds up, they need to take more and more pills to treat the same level of pain. And it's a gradual progression towards dependence and addiction, which often then leads to the accidental overdose.